Hello, everybody. This is Lisa, aka You Brought Me Home on Tumblr. I know you guys all remember me as Captain Hook Podcast from not so long ago. But now that Once Upon a Time has sailed for brighter shores, it's time for me to move on, to look forward, and find something else to capture my interest. Not that I will no longer be a part of the Once Upon a Time fandom, I always am. Like I said, the Captain Hook Podcast Tumblr is still there. You want to check it out to see old episodes of the podcast or Captain Swan podcast, go right ahead. Be my guest. We're always there for you. And who knows, we might come back with some more content. Like I said, I will never not be a Colin fan, so whenever he comes out with more stuff, you can better believe I will be there. Anywho, now that the summer is upon us and most of the shows I watch are on hiatus, I've been looking around for things to watch to pique my interest and, keep me motivated while all my other shows are gone. And I kind of cottoned on to another fandom. I mean, I'm not, dipping too far into it like I did with Once Upon a Time, but it has definitely captured my interest because it is so powerful, the show, and so provocative and intense. And every episode you watch, you look for even the slightest smidgen of positivity, but it's so hard to find it, and it just draws you in each and every second of it. You feel for these people, and you desperately want to reach in and just strangle the motherfuckers that are causing them so much pain, but you can't do anything about it. This fandom, the show that I'm now become a really big fan of, is The Handmaid's Tale. Now, even if you've never seen The Handmaid's Tale, even if you've never read the book, there's no way that that anybody with an online presence of any sort could possibly escape knowledge of what The Handmaid's Tale is. The show is so intense. Every time you watch, you're desperate for the next week to come so you can watch it, but at the same time, sometimes you feel like you have to turn the volume down on your TV and walk out of the room just to breathe, because the episodes are so intense and so painful to see what these women are going through. Not just the women, but the people in general, what they have to go through each and every day of their miserable lives because of this disgusting fascistic totalitarian theocratic government. So I'm not going to go too much into the backstory of Handmaid's Tale, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably already know what the background is, except to say that it's told from the point of view of Offred, who is a handmaid. And in this world, The Handmaid's Tale, which is based off a book written by Margaret Atwood, if you can ever get your hands on it or see the movie that was made as a result, please do so. Very fucking good. And also watch the show. Very fucking good. It pretty much is like an alternative view of history. It's kind of like a situation where what would have happened if we turned left instead of turned right. You know what I mean? For all those of you out there who like to watch Doctor Who. Basically a group of theocratic fascists who have an extremely literal interpretation of the Bible and who believe that it's that women are to blame for all of the ills of the world, have risen up. They have destroyed the U.S. government, killed the president, the vice president, destroyed Congress and all of them, and completely taken over the United States, mostly on the East Coast. And they have created a completely new government in a new country called Gilead. America, proper, kind of still exists. We still have Alaska and Hawaii and Puerto Rico and some parts of the West Coast. But for the most part, they have become refugees living in either Toronto or Mexico. There is still a small established government there, but there's not much that they can do when their entire country has pretty much been taken over by these disgusting people. And the reason why I think people have gravitated to the show so much is because, considering the state of the world, or the state of the country that we live in right now, the state of affairs, the things that we are seeing on TV, parents being separated violently from their children being thrown into cages, people losing their voting rights, people losing their health care, all of these things, women's losing control or being able to make decisions about their own bodies. It's like a wheel of shit that constantly rolls downhill. And I know that it would probably, our world, our country would probably never get to that point that Gilead is at. But you can see why we would identify with it, considering what's going on in our world right now. It's not hard to identify with these people. It's not hard to feel for the women that are stuck in the situation that they're in. I mean, you can't really identify much with the Stepford ass wives that are all wearing blue, because they're in a situation of their own making, and they really are some sick fucks. So it's very hard to sympathize with them. But for the handmaids, for the children, for the Marthas, all of the people living there in fear, I mean, yes, they claim to be pious, but I think you kind of know in your heart of hearts it's fear. Because I'm sure that if they had any other choice, they wouldn't want to live the way that they live unless they were born in it. And to be honest with you, from the perspective of the book and of the television show, I don't think that Gilead's, as an established government, has been around that long. I think it's only been a couple of years that this has happened, because when the book starts out, from Alfred's point of view, whose real name is June, her child Hannah is like 2, and then when you saw her in the last episode, she was probably like 8, 9 maybe. So it's only been really a couple of years that Gilead has been an established government, but in the few years that they've had, they have completely altered the landscape of what the United States was. So basically this theocratic government is completely taken over. Women have no rights. They can't own cars, they can't drive, they can't work, they can't have their own money, they can't read or write, and they basically exist to be servants of their husbands or of their fathers. The class system is very explicit. I know they don't really touch much on race relations in the show that much. They've started to now, but it's because in the book it's different. All the African Americans and people of color were put on reservations. Jews were told they had to either convert to Christianity or they were given the opportunity to move back to the Middle East. Whereas in the book they don't really talk too much about other religions, except to say that they're not allowed. And while there are not that many black people, if any, race relations are stilted, but that doesn't mean to say that black people can't be there, because there are black people there. There are people of color there. Anyhow, basically this all started because birth rates in the United States began to drop dramatically, and people were having problems conceiving and having babies. And humans, of course, that's the biological imperative is to reproduce. So these theocratic fascist people who had this literal view of the Bible all decided to believe that it was the women's fault that they were unable to conceive because of their sinful ways and the fact that they wanted to have their own jobs and get abortions or not have as many children, or wanted to be single, or not marry all the time, all of these things that were against what the Bible supposedly says that a woman needs to be. So they believed that it was a punishment that God was visiting down upon the women for all of their sins by making them barren. Whereas the book and the show has posited the probability that it's not the women that are barren, that it's actually the men who are sterile, because of whatever some sort of chemical that the United States had been using at that time that had unforeseen side effects that was causing, this obviously caused men to be sterile. It hasn't caused all men to be sterile, but because the chemical has been so widely used, it has really done a number on the country. And because the birth rates dropped so dramatically, people began to become desperate. They didn't think they were going to be able to have babies anymore. They felt like, mankind's sins were wreaking havoc on the country, and the country had to be cleansed. So they rose up in this theocratical army. They overtook the entire government. They killed the president, the vice president, Senate, Congress, all. And they tore the Constitution to shreds, and they formed an entirely new government called Gilead. That's completely theocratically based, where, as I said, women have zero rights. And the class system is very specific. You have the commanders, who are the higher ups in the government, and they all wear black. Their wives all wear blue. Most of their wives cannot have children, so they employ the use of handmaids, and they're the ones that wear red. The handmaids are the ones that, prior to Gilead taking over, have proven to be fertile. They either had children before Gilead took over, or they were known as loose women because they had married, maybe they had affairs, or they were a man's second wife, or they had more than one, like they had been divorced and had married a second time. Some of them were gay. Specifically about the LGBTQ, there is none. Like, that is not allowed. The word gay, lesbian is not even used in the show. It's called gender traitor. Most of the people of the LGBTQ communities were shot or hung, except for the ones that could breed. There's a character on the show named Emily, who June knows as Off Glen. The only reason she was allowed to survive, even though she is a lesbian, is because she had a son before this happened. So they knew she was fertile. They needed her to breed. So anyway, basically the first season is told from, well, the whole show is told from Offred's perspective, but it details how she was separated from her, how all of this started, all of this big, huge revolution happened, how she was separated from her husband. She believes her husband is dead. Her daughter was taken from her and placed with another family, and she was thrown into the handmaid's prison, where she was indoctrinated and forced to become a handmaid, and then sent to the Waterford household to become a handmaid for Fred Waterford and his wife Serena Joy. They cannot have children, or at least Serena Joy has been unable to get pregnant, so she is there to provide her services. And it pretty much details everything from her perspective, how she becomes involved with the resistance, how she meets the Waterford's driver Nick and falls in love with him, how she finds out that her husband is in fact alive and living in Canada as a refugee with her best friend, Moira, who managed to escape. The fact that she finds out her daughter is in fact alive, and the only reason she hasn't tried harder to escape is because she wants to get her daughter out, because she doesn't want her daughter to have to live this life. One thing of note that I didn't realize at first about her daughter was there's also a class system for the children. The children who come from pure births are always dressed in white, but the children that are dressed in pink, like Hannah, who is Yuna's daughter, they're the ones who came from births that were impure, like maybe their mother was gay, or their father was gay, or their parents were divorced, or something that wasn't pure. And so these girls are essentially being groomed, that once they become of age, they will be sent to the handmaids prison, basically, and taught to become indoctrinated and taught to be handmaids, whereas the pure ones will probably be wedded off to somebody. The third class is, they don't really have a specific name, but they're just regular people who are the pious, the faithful, and they all dress in gray. They live in their own area of town, and the women are pretty much called Marthas. They're maids. They're wives, but they're a different kind of wives. They're they cook, they clean, they do childcare. They basically do all the lower type jobs, the non-educated type jobs, whereas the only reason that Serena Joy and her ilk aren't on their level is because they were already, previous to this happening, they were married to the commanders. If they had not been married to those higher ups, they would be of the lower class too. But they all wear gray, and Nick, who is the driver, is also a part of this class, but he has a little bit higher standing because he has a connection to the commander and his people. But in reality, Nick is a member of the resistance movement. No one knows this, except for June. In the course of the book, we find out that no matter how many times that June is, forcibly raped by him to try to conceive, that it doesn't work because it's fairly certain that Waterford is sterile. So Serena Joy has become frustrated that, this is not working, and she doesn't want Offred to be there any longer than she needs to be. I mean, they already saw what happened with one of the other handmaids who had recently given birth but became very extremely attached to her child. And June had almost to talk her off the ledge. She was literally going to jump off the ledge and commit suicide rather than have to give up her child and go back to the situation that she was living in. Because apparently when you're a handmaid and you're sent off to these houses, there's very strict rules about the ceremony, which is, when the handmaid is the most fertile, that's when they're forced to have sex with these men, and the women, the wives, sit behind them with their legs open, trying, acting like they're having sex when they're really not, and their wrists are held down so that they can't move, and they really have no other choice. But that's the only sex act that they are permitted to do in order to copulate, to have a child. And the whole sex act is completely emotionless. There's no emotion involved. It's all for the sake of having children. But that handmaid's commander was making her do other things besides the normal sex act, and he does wind up getting into a lot of trouble for it. So basically she is just trying to deal, and the only reason that she hasn't completely lost her mind is because Waterford, you think he's a little bit different because he gives her a little more leeway. He allows her into his office. He allows her to sit down and talk. He gives her a magazine to read. Oh, he's nice. Maybe he doesn't really believe in all this stuff. Bullshit. Yes, he does. He's just trying to make her more pliable. And then he dresses her up real nice in a pretty dress. He takes her off to a sex club. There is a sex club in a more urban part of the area where the women who are handmaids, if they can't adjust and if they can't fall in line as handmaids, or they have two options. They can either become a sex slave at the sex club, or they are sent out to what's called the colonies, where they shovel nuclear waste and most certainly die of radiation. That is where June's mother got stuck. June's mother was a bit of a social justice activist, and she was scooped up so they wouldn't have to deal with her. And Offglen, Emily, who was found out to be a part of the resistance, was also sent there too. But she wasn't really sent there because she was part of the resistance. She was sent there because So Serena Joy's become pissed off. She's tired of having to wait. So she says, look, I know you and Nick are friends. He seems to like you. You seem to like him. He respects you. So since this can't work with Waterford and we need this to get done, why don't you have sex with him? I mean, at least it'll be easier to do than to have sex with Fred. And you think at that point, oh, maybe she's like trying to be nice, because yes, it is obvious that the two of them really do like each other. And they do wind up having sex. They do wind up getting into a relationship. And June gets pregnant with his child. Initially, they don't tell Fred that this child is Nick's. They don't want to tell him that. They're afraid that he's going to react badly. So they make him believe that it's his child, and oh my blessed day, she's having a child. Once the handmaids get pregnant, they're like, oh, they're treated with every ounce of, they're given everything, the best food, the best care. Now, in the book, at the end, she kills Waterford and she escapes with the resistance to live her life in freedom, whereas in the series, obviously they couldn't end it that definitively, so they kind of stretched it, let it go on. At the end of season 1, she does manage to escape June, and Nick gets her into a shelter. He's not able to get her across the border, but he gets her. It's kind of like a railroad type thing where you go from stop to stop to stop, and there are some stops where she's there for weeks, and all told, she's probably on the run for a couple of months. And it's the first taste of freedom she's had in probably years. Um, she's pretty much made to wait at a newspaper, I think it's the Boston Globe, and she's pretty much made to wait there until someone from the resistance comes and contacts her, and that happens to be Nick. So every so often he comes out there, and he spends time with her there, and he says, "Don't worry, just be patient, and at some point they'll contact me, and then we will move you." So while this is going on, Waterford is trying to find her. You know, Serena Joy is losing her shit because she knows that Fred is pregnant. She wants the baby back, but they don't want to admit that Fred ran away, because if it got out that people found out that Fred ran off, then it would be, the embarrassment they could not deal with. So they put out the story that she was kidnapped by the resistance. So she is quite literally on the verge of making it into Canada. She leaves, they take her from the Boston Globe, and they send her via many more stops to a plane. And she's on the plane, and the pilot is ready to take off. He's about to take off. And she is this close to crossing into Canadian airspace. Like she's almost free when the authorities catch up with her, and they shoot the pilot, and they take her back. And it's got to be the saddest scene I've ever seen, because she was so damn close to escaping, and you're like right there with her, just please escape, please get out. She's sent back to the Waterfords, well, not directly to the Waterfords, but she's actually sent back to the Handmaid's school first, where she's chained to a bed for a while. Basically chained until she submits, chained into submission, I guess, so that she won't try to run, because they know that she actually ran. They know she wasn't grabbed, that she ran, but that's just the story that they're putting out, so that to save themselves the embarrassment. So once they believe that she's whatever part of her that was June is now floated away, and she's just offered and she'll be submissive, they take her back to the house. And of course they give her everything she wants and try to treat her nicely. Well, at least Waterford and Rita does. Serena Joy ain't having the shit, because she's pissed off that Fred even attempted to leave in the first place. So most of the second season details between her escape and then coming back, and then months passing as she's still stuck there with them. When she gets grabbed and is made to submit to them being chained to this bed, she kind of goes catatonic in a sort of way. I mean, she's still verbal and she still talks, but her spirit, her hope is broken, and there's like nothing left of her. So she just kind of submits. When she goes back to the house, yes, Mr. Waterford, yes, Mrs. Waterford, she doesn't really react. There's no emotion there. And she doesn't even realize when she starts having complications. She starts to bleed heavily, and she doesn't even react. And then she collapses. She faints from the blood loss, and it's not till someone in the house finds her that they even realize that there's something wrong. She gets rushed to the hospital. They treat her there. Everything seems to be okay. She recovers. She goes home, and it's not until she gets home that she finally snaps out of it and comes back to being June. Now, there's a lot of back and forth with June. Some episodes she's submissive. Some episodes she's tough. Sometimes she gives in to what they want her to do. Other times she fights back. But I can tell as the season has worn on that she's become more and more hard. And now, towards the end of season 2, now that it's very close to the birth of her child, that it's definitive in her that she does not want her child to be born into this world. That she's going to do whatever she has to do to get out and not allow them to take her baby away to be raised by these people. So, one really good thing about episode 9 last week was 2 weeks ago was that the Waterfords went to Canada to try to sit down with the Canadian officials and work out some sort of trade agreement. And it was very obvious that they'd been hiding what was really going on. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly fucking hide that, considering that they, killed the president and all this. I can't understand how officials from other governments aren't, like, trying to invade the country and take all these people out. I just don't get that, how they just let it go. I understand that the Mexican officials are having their own breeding problems, but seriously, you're going to let these kinds of atrocities happen? Really? Anyhow, the big deal with season 2 was this package of letters that the resistance was trying to get out. It was written by handmaids, many, many different ones, detailing their stories. Some of them had lost family members, children, husbands, wives. I mean, just all kinds of atrocious things that had happened. They wanted the letters to get out. They wanted the truth to get out. They wanted people to hear what had really happened, because the government officials in Gilead were trying to make it seem like, the women are treated just fine here. It's no big deal. They're very happy, blah, 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 blah. They're trying to pass off all the ideas of forced rape and, oh no, that's not true. We don't do that here. But when the Waterfords go to Canada, while Nick is there, he doesn't expect it to happen. But what happens is he meets June's husband, Luke. And in the book, Luke was actually killed very early on, but in the show, it's different. He actually survives. He's found, nursed back to health, and brought to Canada, and he survives there. And later on, June's friend, Moira in the series, I forget what her name was in the book, but she's her college friend. She's also is a handmaid, but she doesn't want to be there. She manages to escape. It was supposed to be the both of them escaping together, but at the last minute they had to part ways, and June got caught, and Moira was the one that managed to escape on the train. And she found her way to the sex club, where she, became a prostitute of sorts. I mean, obviously the prostitution was forced. And while and June doesn't even know that Moira is still alive. I mean, she didn't know if Moira managed to escape, if she was caught, killed, or what. But when Waterford took her to the sex club, she was shocked to see that Moira was there working as a sex slave, and she was going by the name Ruby. And while she's there, when they realize that June knows somebody there that could help them, they ask her to give or Moira a package. Or they ask Moira to get a package to June, a very important package. And at first, Ruby doesn't want anything to do with it. But June reminds her of the person she used to be, of the strong, willful, proactive, social justice type person that she used to be, that she would never back down for anybody. That it was Moira that was the one that was constantly trying to escape and constantly telling the people in charge of the handmaids to go fuck off. She was the one that always had the mouth. I mean, they sent her there to the brothel because she couldn't conform. Because she was just not that type of person. But she'd been so beaten into submission in the brothel and had so much of her identity and her hope stripped away from her that she just kind of was going through the motions and not really living but existing, you know. So when she saw June again after so long, it kind of reignited her strength and her passion, and she did eventually help June with that package. And she also gathered up the courage to take out one of the guys that was had employed her services and steal his clothes and his car keys. And that is how she managed to escape. She grabbed his car and she just kept driving. She just drove, just kept going until she couldn't go anymore. Once the car ran out of gas, she started walking. And she didn't realize where she was until she came to a barn. When she went into the barn and there was the bottom of the car was covered in snow, and she wiped away to see what the license plate said. It said Canada, and she just couldn't even believe that she'd actually made it. So that's when she meets up with Luke, and so Moira is living with Luke up there, and they desperately want to get June back, but they don't know how to go about doing it. Luke is kind of given up in a sort of way. He knows that his wife is insane. He knows that she's suffering, but he doesn't know of anything that he can do to save her. It's not until he meets Nick in episode 9 that he finds out that June is alive and that she's pregnant. That's what kind of reignites his fervor and makes him want to beat the fuck out of Waterford, because he knows what Waterford has been doing to her. So, because Moira was able to pass the package to June, June gives the package to Nick, and Nick gives the package to Luke. When they get their hands on this package, they don't know what to do with it at first, but they just know that it's important. And when they open it, they realize, Moira realizes this was the package that was so important that she had to get out. And she thinks, oh, maybe it's some kind of big deal thing for the Canadian government that'll topple the theocratic fascist bullshit. But it turns out to be these letters from all these handmaids. And at first she's like, Jesus fucking Christ. All that, I went through all that for a bunch of postcards. But Luke realizes that what is so powerful about these letters is these are the words of these women, of the people whose lives have been destroyed. These are real stories, real words, real emotion. Gilead had been hiding the truth of what they've been doing. This represented the truth of what was really going on. So they uploaded all of the letters onto the internet in secret, and that shit was blasted out to everybody. So the next day, when Waterford and his wife come to sit down with the Canadian government, the Canadians are like, you are no longer welcome in this country, you need to leave now. And the female delegate who'd been trying to have some sympathy for Waterford's wife just looked at her like, how can you live with yourself? Because they read the letters that were published. Overnight it was viral. Like, finally the truth of what was going on. Big boom, like boom boom. So another interesting fact about the episode was the fact that during the visit, this was the first time that Serena had any sense of freedom at all. She wasn't allowed to do very much. The sad thing was when she first got there, the lady who was in charge of her schedule brought her a piece of paper, and it was supposed to have the itinerary of, all the events that were scheduled for her while she was there. But it was all in pictures. There was no words, because the Canadians knew that she wasn't allowed to read. And that was just so sad that she has to be degraded like this. This is a woman who was a college professor, who wrote novels, who made speeches, who, she's very, very smart. And now she's made to look like she's less than because she's no longer allowed to be a person. what's even more sad is when she goes to the elevator to get on, and there's a lady with her daughter there, and the daughter is just staring at her. Are you a princess? Because she's wearing a long blue, dressy coat or whatever, the style of blue that they wear. And the mother just looks at her like, come on, honey, let's go. And she gets in, so Serena could feel like, yeah, I better not get in there with them, because she could definitely tell that the woman did not want her near her daughter. This was before those letters got out, so they kind of knew that there was some seriously nasty shit going on, but they didn't know how nasty it really was, and they didn't really want to associate with these people. Another interesting thing was how she observed, when the car was driving from the airport to the hotel, how she observed all the color, because in Gilead there's no color. There's just, the only colors you see is what they wear, the blue that she wears, the red that the handmaids wear, and the gray and the black. There's no like freedom of expression. Everything is muted and dumbed down. But in Canada, it's normal life, regular clothes, regular living. You got people holding hands and kissing. Just, normal life. And it's everything that she's lost. Everything that she gave up for this prison of her own design. And while she's there having a drink at the hotel bar, a man who she thinks at first is flirting with her comes up to her, and she realizes that he's actually a representative of what's left of the true American government in Canada. And he offers a chance to help her escape. He says, I can get you out and you can tell your story. You don't ever have to go back to that life ever again. You can be free. You can be far away from here, far from any of this, and this will be a distant memory to you. You can tell your story. You can tell the truth of what's been going on there. And she has this amazing opportunity to finally leave and get some of that freedom back that you can tell she's missing. But she turns him down and acts like, oh no, I'm fine. And then the next day when those letters get out and they chastise her for allowing all this to happen, she just clams up and walks away, and then acts so shocked when at the airport their car is converged upon by people that are protesting. Well, it's kind of hard to have sympathy when you're allowing stuff like that to happen. So, back to the most recent episode, season 2, episode 10, the last ceremony. You would think this would be something happy, because, that means that Ofra doesn't have to deal with this anymore. She doesn't have to lay down for this motherfucker anymore. But you realize that there's no real happiness in it, because once she has a child with them, and then she recovers, she'll just be sent to another house where she'll have to do it all over again. The difference in this is that usually the handmaids, after they give birth to the children, they're allowed to stay there for 6 weeks, or some length of time, a few months, in order to breastfeed so that the baby can have milk, and then they're slowly weaned off before the handmaids are sent to a different house. But Serena Joy hates Offred so much that she doesn't want her there anymore. So she tells her that once this baby's born, you're leaving. You're not going to feed the baby any milk. You're not there, you are going to be moved to another district. So you will not be here anymore, because I think that we have seen enough. June goes to the store with Emily, and the fucked up thing, okay, I just gotta say that this episode was really hard to watch. All the episodes are really hard to watch. But in the course of the season, going on this journey with June, you sometimes forget how hard they really have it, and how horrible it is to be in their shoes. And then you see episodes like this. Because the opening scene was Emily, aka Elf Glen. Well, she's not really called Elf Glen anymore. She's with a different person now. But anyway, it opens with her laying on the bed for the ceremony. And you hear Emily's voiceover as she's talking about how the handmaids kind of disassociate themselves from what's going on. They can't emotionally invest themselves or involve themselves in it, because it's the only way for them to keep a shred of sanity left. Otherwise, he would slowly go insane. So she kind of just lays on the bed with her head turned away, and she acts like he's not even there, and it's so mechanical, like it's almost like two robots. And the ironic thing is that once it's over with, the guy, I guess, had a weak heart, because as soon as he's done and pulls out, he keels over and dies. And you gotta love Emily. Emily is like the bitch's bitch. The wife runs over to check on her husband and says and demands that Emily go get help, and she's like, well, they say it's better if I lay on my back. You know, the chances are better to get pregnant. I'm like, oh, girl, you did not. Oh, you are good. Yeah, like she was going to get up and give her any fucking help. Really? Please. Karma. Karma. So, Stepford's wife runs out of the room to go get help, and Emily gets up and proceeds to kick the shit out of this guy, nailing him in the balls. Like, you go, girl. You go. No justice, no peace. Karma. So the next day, Offred is at the store, and Emily's there, and she can hear all the chatter from the handmaids about, you know, oh my God, her commander died. I heard that he died when he was inside of her. Blah 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 blah, 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 you know. And she's trying to give Emily some comfort, you know. At the same time, you can see in the corner Eden, who is Nick's child bride, is there, and their guard Isaac is also there. Now, they've been hinting severely that there is something going on between Eden and Isaac, which doesn't surprise me because Eden is a very impressionable young girl. She's only 15, and it was obvious when she first met Nick at that ceremony that there was no chemistry there between them. I mean, obviously Nick is in love with June. So, and Eden has been able to tell for quite some time that something's up because he doesn't touch her, he doesn't pay her any attention. And the only reason he has sex with her is just to, you know, fulfill some kind of duty so she won't report him. Otherwise, he doesn't really pay attention to her, and she feels horrible, like she's done something wrong. But yet Isaac kind of flirts with her, and it's obvious that he likes her, and she likes him back. I mean, makes sense. She's 15. She's young, so of course she would respond to attention. So they're doing their flirting thing, and Offred starts having contractions. So they immediately rush back to the house. All of the handmaids go to prepare, and Lydia shows up. Oh, blessed be, blessed day, it's finally here, we've done it, you know. And in the course of this, they realize that when the contractions aren't really going anywhere, and that her cervix is not opening, that it was Braxton Hicks. So the labor was false. Serena Joy is pissed off, is not even the word. Pissed the fuck off, because she desperately wants Offred to give birth to this baby. She wants June to have this baby so June can be gone. June is like, psych, bitch. Psych. She's actually kind of like snickering a little bit at the fact that this bitch is so worked up about having this baby. Oh, no, sorry, not happening yet. Maybe in another 2 weeks, but not yet. The doctor offers her, you know, some more natural ways to induce labor, like certain salads or potatoes or teas that might work. Serena Joy wants her to be induced using chemicals, and they're like, no, it's not a good idea because she's already high risk from when she was bleeding before, and they don't want to cause any further problems. So it's better to just let the baby come naturally. Serena Joy not happy about this at all. Not at all. You kind of snip at each other a little bit, and I really can't stand that when the handmaids are giving birth, and the Stepford motherfucking wives come in, and they lay on the bed and they breathe as if they're Anyhow, so you can tell she's really embarrassed, and the other wives like kind of looking around like, oh, what do we? I don't know what to say. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Oh, as if something like this has never happened before. You honestly going to tell me that you've never had that one of the handmaids has never had false labor? It happens. It's a thing. Anyhow, they all go back to their homes. The handmaids leave, and that's when they have this. She and Serena Joy have this conversation about how once the baby's born, she's going to be moved to another district. So that night, Serena asks Fred, she says, look, I can't wait anymore. I don't want to have to wait another 2 weeks for her to give birth. I want this done now. So why don't we do this a more natural way? Where she can, if I know that if you have sex with her, it might induce her to give birth. That same night, June goes to Waterford and she says to him, look, I know I'm not going to be around here for much longer because this baby's about to be born, but when I have to leave, I know that I'm going to be going to a different district. I was hoping that you could find it within your power to send me to the district that my daughter's in. I mean, I know I'll never be able to see her, but I just want to be able to be close to her. If that's okay, I know that it's within your power. And he's like, how dare you tell me what's within my power? And he fucking goes off. Supposedly because I think he was embarrassed that she didn't give birth when she was supposed to. And maybe he was angry at the fact that he's given her all this leeway to do certain things. And yeah, so he takes it out on her, and you can tell that he's pissed off. So when Serena asks him to do what he's got to do to make her have this baby, you know that these women are getting raped on a continual basis. And even though Emily's ceremony rape is not like physically, I mean, it's hard to watch, obviously. It's disgusting. But it's not like physical. What happens with June and Serena Joy in Waterford is just beyond the beyond. They tell her to come to the room. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's like, yeah, what? And Serena Joy has her sit down on the bed and explains to her what they want to do. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. The baby's going to be here soon. You don't need to do that. And they force her. Serena Joy literally forces her onto the bed, holds her wrists down, like pins her down. Because even when they do the ceremony, they're not really holding her down that hard. It's not like the handmaids are going to try to escape. They can't, because they'll be shocked. So they literally pinning her down with all of her weight. Waterford comes in, shoves her legs open, pulls her pants down, and he doesn't just rape her. He like forcibly hardcore rapes her with all the anger and frustration that he's got in him, and just pours out in this scene. And June is just screaming, please stop, don't. And I'm not surprised that a lot of the people that watch this scene had to either turn, mute it or walk out the room, because every episode of this show is difficult to watch, but this was the most. I mean, any shred of sympathy that you might have had for Serena Joy just went out the window after this episode. There's no going back for her. I mean, you already knew that she didn't really care about Fred. She only cared about the baby. But you kind of had some sympathy that she was stuck in a situation that she didn't realize it was going to go this far. She had certain ideals about how she wanted women to be, but I don't think she ever expected it for it to go as far as it did. And yet, now that it has, she's not ever tried to get out of it in any sort of way. She's never tried to make things better or apologize for the things that she's done. She just lets it get worse and worse and worse. And she doesn't really even view Alfred as a person. She just views her as cattle, and it's really quite disgusting. So, after this happens, the next day, he goes upstairs to June, and he says to her that I have a surprise for you. And I'm like, I can't believe you're even in the same room. I could fucking kill you. See, while this was happening the night before, Nick was in his little apartment above the garage there, and he was watching her window, assuming she was there, because that's how they usually see each other, through the window. But he didn't see her. What he did see was wifey Eden out front of the house. She was taking out the garbage, and Isaac was behind her, and they kind of got the flirt on, and they started kissing. Nick's just sitting out there with a cigarette, like, didn't even care. He's like, whatevs. I think in some part of him was finally glad that she had somewhere else to put her attention, because it was getting harder and harder for him to put her off without her getting more suspicious. And I guess he figured, well, if she's got some other guy that she likes, fine, let her go have, put her attention on him and away from me. When she realizes that he sees her, Isaac out of the way, she runs up to her apartment and she gets on her knees and begs for forgiveness from Nick, and I think she expects to probably be beaten for it, but he doesn't do anything. I mean, he doesn't even respond. He's like, it's all good. We good. You can go back out there and, like, whatever. She's like, why don't you react? Why don't you care? Why don't you touch her? Why don't you do anything? Blah, blah, blah. It's the handmaid, isn't it? It's the handmaid, isn't it? And that's when she kind of realizes that there's something going on between him and June. Now, Nick tries to rebuff her. He tries to deny it. But even though this girl's 15, she's not stupid. So it does not surprise me what happens next. He was balancing a very fine line when it came to Eden struggling to make sure that she didn't report him. I can't say for sure that it was her, but some part of me thinks it was probably her. The next morning, Waterford says that he's giving Offred a gift. She doesn't know what it is at first. I really don't think she wants anything from him after what he did to her. But Serena Joy isn't there, and he tells Nick to come back in 3 hours before Serena Joy realizes that y'all are gone. So he drives her out to this abandoned mansion in the middle of no fucking where. And the whole time that he's driving, I'm like, oh my God, it's just the two. There's no other guards. It's just them two. You can fucking drive away right now to freedom in a car, and they will never stop you. Oh my God, you can be free right now. I can't understand why he didn't just drive away. They had the perfect opportunity to drive to freedom right there. But she didn't say anything. I guarantee you. He had asked her if there was something wrong. He could tell that there was something wrong. If she had told him what had happened the night before, I guarantee you he would have driven away and they would never have come back. But she didn't say a word. So they get to this mansion. She doesn't know why she's there or what the whole deal is. She goes inside, and there's a Martha there with her daughter, Hannah. So apparently Waterford is giving her 10 minutes with her daughter to appease her. And the look on June's face when she finally sees her child is just, as a mother, I can't even imagine not having my child ripped away from me. It's very, the whole timing of this episode is very apropos considering what's going on in the country right now. And she hugs her and she's crying, and you wonder whether or not this child's even going to recognize her, because she probably hasn't seen her since she was a toddler. But lo and behold, Hannah does remember her, but she's angry at her. She's wanting to know why her parents didn't work harder to find her, why they just left her there. And June kind of accepts the fact that, yeah, you have every right to be angry, and she tries to comfort her and tell her that it's okay and you're with a good family, not even though she knows it's not entirely true. But she works hard to make sure that her daughter knows that no matter what happens, that they will always be her parents. that June and Luke will always be her mom and her dad, and they will always love her no matter what happens, no matter where she goes in life. They will love her, and they will always be her parents. And she asks her, "Are you gonna come and get me?" And what can you say to that? She says that she'll do her best. So time runs out, and the driver who is driving her daughter says, "We have to go now, like right now." Obviously something's wrong. So they're practically having to drag this child out of the house. She's screaming for her mother, not wanting to be separated from her mother. They're dragging her through the snow to the van, and June just runs out and just grabs hold of her and just hugs her and kisses her and says, "It's okay, it's okay." And she tells her that she loves her, and she smiles her, because that's what you want your child to see, a smile. Even though you're breaking inside, you have to be as strong as you can to give your child comfort. So she says, "Are you going to turn around? You're going to get back into the van, and you're going to go home." So she does. The van peels off, and Nick tells her, June, to get in the house and to hide. Something's happening that is not right. So June runs into the house, and through the window she sees another van pull up, and some other guys, presumably the eyes, I'm guessing, jump out, and they tussle with Nick a little bit, and then Nick gets shot. Now, from my perspective, I don't think the shot was fatal, but he definitely got shot. And they drag him off into the van, and they disappear. And she runs out after the van, but it's already long gone. So the episode ends with her being stuck out in the middle of nowhere in this abandoned mansion alone. No transportation, no nothing. She's by herself. So that was season 2, episode 10. So on Wednesday, it's supposed to pick up from there, and this is a good opportunity for Offer to escape, but the problem is that she's heavily pregnant, and it's implied, because of the name of the episode 11 is postpartum, it's highly likely that she's probably going to go into labor. So, I haven't seen the previews for this episode, but I know it's going to be an intense one. I mean, they're all intense. But, I don't know if she's going to attempt to escape. I don't know if they're going to try to find her. I'm not sure, I don't know if they're going to try to find her. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I know that she's becoming very close to having a baby. The only thing I'm fairly certain of at this point is that now that she's had the opportunity to see her daughter, that she's not going to leave without getting the child back. And she's determined at this point to make sure that her baby does not fall into Waterford's hands. Now that she has this opportunity to escape, I think she's really going to take it. The only thing is, with Nick being abducted like that, she doesn't really have anybody else to turn to. Everybody in that area is so ingrained into Gilead, it's very difficult to find people who are part of the resistance. So I don't know how it's going to go. We will see how it winds up. After Wednesday, I think there's only like 3 episodes left for the season. Whoa. So we will see how it goes. That is all from me. And you'll hear from me probably Thursday, maybe Friday after I see episode 11. So bye guys.